Sinking down under this weight, gonna push the fight. Oh, freedom. Hear our battle cry. We can turn the tide.
A woman inspired by the world around her explored a new path of freedom,
encountered a countless amount of struggles along the way,
exchanged her point of view among thousands
to make the world a better place for half of the American population.
Women's suffrage is displayed around the world from its humble beginnings in England. The cult of domesticity shaped the nation and made the home the designated place for women.
Alice Paul was an influential leader of the women's suffrage movement. Through hard work, dedication, and motivation, she was able to achieve her goal. Alice Stokes Paul was born on January 11, 1885, to a Quaker family in the quiet town of Morristown, New Jersey. Early on, she explored the idea of political equality by attending her mother's women's suffrage meetings. Historically, the Quaker religion has stressed equality and toleration towards women, Native Americans, and other religions.
As a young woman, she worked hard in school and went to Swarthmore College and Quaker College, which she graduated from with a degree in biology. Furthering her education, she completed graduate work at the New York School of Philanthropy and received a degree in sociology from the University of Pennsylvania in 1907. Alice Paul then began to explore women's suffrage more deeply while living in England until 1912. She soon met another suffragette, Emmeline Pankhurst, who was the founder of the British suffrage movement. Together, they participated in intense protests, which included hunger strikes.
Alice Paul's participation with the British suffragettes gave her valuable training and political and tactical knowledge that she then applied to the American fight for a suffrage amendment.
The fight for women's suffrage was a long and difficult journey and led Alice Paul to encounter many challenges. On March 3, 1913, the day before the inauguration of President Woodrow Wilson, the first major women's suffrage efforts began with a historic parade in Washington, D.C. for the National American Women's Suffrage Association led by Alice Paul. Alice Paul exchanged her point of view among thousands and brought great attention to the women's suffrage movement by organizing this massive parade with over 8,000 participants.
Despite the harassment and assault encountered by the marchers, the protest was one of the biggest protests in American history. It brought more attention to the vote than ever before and increased morale among the suffragists.
After this parade, Alice Paul and Carrie Chapman Catt, president of the National American Women's Suffrage Association, disagreed on the direction in which the suffrage movement was moving, since Carrie Chapman Catt thought Paul's methods were too radical. As a result, Alice Paul founded her own suffrage organization, the National Women's Party, so she could focus her energy and funding on getting the amendment. On March 17th, Alice Paul met with Woodrow Wilson to exchange her ideas with him, and was informed that it wasn't time for an amendment yet. Even though she met with him 2 more times after that, there was little progress related to women's rights.
Starting in 1914, the National Women's Party organized silent sentinels to stand outside the White House, picketing and holding banners with provocative phrases aimed towards President Wilson, in order to exchange her point of view towards women's suffrage with the public.
Suffragists petitioned the government and individual politicians. Women publicly protesting, delivering speeches, writing, publishing, and traveling the world to get their message out were all important steps towards the passing of the 19th Amendment.
The picketing outside the White House did not gain that big of a reaction until the United States entered World War I. Many people saw the picketing by the suffragists as unpatriotic during wartime, which led to the suffragists encountering angry mobs attacking them. Then the picketers began to get arrested for obstructing traffic and later jailed when they refused to pay the fines.
Tactics used by Alice Paul and the National Women's Party, including parades, picketing, media campaigns, public tours, and powerful oratory, continue to be used by lobby groups today, and are featured prominently in the later civil rights movements. Alice Paul and her party's visible and public protests also paid homage to strategies learned in England. WSPU tactics in England often involved pursuing public spaces and creating visual spectacles that would end up in newspapers. Alice Paul's suffrage parade on March 3, 1913, and subsequent pageants, protests, and publicity stunts drew on these former ideas. Paul and the other suffragists then went to a jail in Virginia, where they demanded to be treated as political prisoners. However, these requests were met with brutality, and women encountered being beaten, pushed, and thrown out into the cold, unsanitary conditions, and rat-infested cells. During her time in prison, Paul staged hunger strikes, resulting in Paul encountering torturous force feedings. Prison officials attempted to get Paul declared as insane. As the news of the hunger strikes and force feeding encountered by the suffragists reached the public, support for the women's movement increased, and people began to demand the release of Alice Paul and the suffragists.
Paul's hard work and powerful voice began to pay off. Paul and women around the world exchanged similar ideas, and by 1910, states in the West even started to let women vote. Paul and other supporters continued to fight to allow every woman in every state to vote. And even as World War I took the world by storm, they didn't let it stop the fight. They took advantage of it. Their patriotic support of the war proved them worthy of voting. On May 21, 1919, the House of Representatives passed the 19th Amendment. Paul is remembered for being an extraordinary, powerful woman who spoke words that brought people together. If it wasn't for her amazing work, women today wouldn't have the privileges they have.
Although the United States has come a long way since the sacrifices and struggles of the suffragists, especially Alice Paul, the fight is still not over. Before the 1920s, universal women's suffrage was unheard of within our so-called free nation, but thanks to Alice Paul's brave exploration, the impossible was achieved. Even though political equality was accomplished, women still encounter social and economic inequalities on a daily basis.
You know, they say a woman's place is in the home, and I suppose as long as she's in the home, she might as well be in the kitchen.
For example, the United States seemed to take a step in the wrong direction during the 1950s, when the image of the ideal woman was a stay-at-home mother who was responsible for only cooking and cleaning. Even today, women still encounter countless difficulties achieving equal status compared to men.
On average, a woman earns 79 cents to every dollar a man makes. There are double standards regarding women's dress and portrayal in the media. Oftentimes, women are considered to be unable to control their emotions. Oftentimes, a man is rewarded for being aggressive and outspoken, and a woman is degraded or called names for the same behavior. America learned many lessons from Alice Paul. Through exploration, encounter, and exchange, Alice Paul successfully achieved the passage of the 19th Amendment, giving full political rights to women. Alice Paul's exploration in England, encounters with President Wilson, and exchanges with other suffragists allowed Alice Paul to achieve the impossible. Without her enduring strength and complete dedication to the movement, women would not exercise the rights they possess today.